Home Alone 2. This time Kevin gets on a different flight, ends up in New York at a hotel. As he enters the hotel, he's looking for the front lobby. And he comes across, of all people, Donald Trump. Younger version of Donald Trump.
Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Down the hall and to the left.
Thanks.
Here to your left. You know, Herbert Hoover once stayed here on this floor.
Vacuum guy?
No, the president.
As Kevin is escorted to his room, there's a mention of a president in the previous scene. Donald Trump, who later becomes president, is in the scene. As Kevin is looking in his room, there's a TV with VCR. One of the movies is called The Ventilator, which hints at a pandemic or some sort of respiratory illness that requires ventilators to help people breathe. We do know that, see Donald Trump in one scene. When he becomes president's mentioned in the next scene. Now here we are, the next scene, the ventilator. So Trump president, epidemic, COVID-19, which all came true while Donald Trump was president. But furthermore, Kevin is now in his hotel room, looking through his bag, finds his dad's wallet. In the wallet is a list of people they know in New York and the addresses. And of all numbers, the first one he sees is 2020. Just so happens to be Chicago, but here's New York. 2020 is the exact year that Trump was president, when the pandemic, which required ventilators, happened. Right in spring 2020. Started in Wuhan, China, in late 2019, December 2019-ish, and it's been around ever since. But it hit the United States hard around February 2020. The shutdowns started happening in March 2020. Angels with even filthier souls. Filthy means dirty. Dark, bad angels, evil angels. Anyone who would become president and claim power over God, or claims that they can do something to help God's people when the Bible says only God can do it, would be considered a dark angel. So a president would be a dark an angel with filthier souls. Pandemic ventilator.
Wow! Holy look! Crash landing!
Short round. Step on it.
Okie dokie, Dr. Jones. Hold on to your potato! Why's it grow like that?
Good service here.
That's not a
Why's it
waiter.
grow like that?
Wuhan's an old friend. Game's not over, Lavo. Antidote.
Why's it grow like that?
Wuhan's an old friend. Game's not over, Lavo. Antidote.
Considered one of the greatest political criminals of all time, Roman Emperor Nero's name became synonymous with evil due to his transgressions. The historic accounts are all full of heinous accusations against the mad emperor that portray him as a crazy, lustful, greedy, and horrible human being who had sympathy for no one, especially when it comes to his family. Did he really marry a servant while being dressed as a bride? Is he the most successful Olympian in history? And was he so evil that he is the inspiration behind the Christian myth of the Prince of Darkness? The opposite of Jesus Christ? Welcome to Nutty History, and today let's look at the weird things that were normal for Roman Emperor Nero. Viewer discretion is advised for this video, as some of this video may be offensive or disturbing. We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone the actions of the subjects featured. Nero shared more common traits with certain modern leaders: their inability to swallow defeat and having a loose impulse to cheat. There may have been no democracy back then to stop the count, but there were Olympics to stop his opponents from getting ahead of him. Nero was heavily fascinated with chariot races, and of course, he won all of those races. In 67 AD alone, he conducted 1,100 events and was declared the winner at every single one of them. He was a self-claimed champion despite being an utter failure, and would force the judges to overturn decisions in his favor. And what's crazy is Nero still holds the world record for most Olympic wins. He staked claim to 1,808 Olympic wreaths, which is like winning that many gold medals in the modern Olympics. Michael Phelps? Who again? But why was Nero so successful? Well, obviously by cheating, of course. He entered several events, and with his bodyguard standing ominously close to the participants, you guessed it, he won all of them. The most ridiculous and blatant instance of his cheating was the chariot race of 66 AD. Nero purposely asked his competitors to use 4-horse chariots, and then he showed up with a team of 10 horses. Yet despite his massive advantage, Nero couldn't make it across the finish line. He stumbled off his chariot, and the entire race was paused so he could get back in the chariot and continue. However, the mad emperor was injured enough that he had to pull out of the race. Still, to the anguish of the other competitors, the judges declared their emperor the winner of the race, inconsequential to who crossed the finish line first, even though Nero never came close to it. Not only was Nero a spoiled brat when it comes to the childish antics about winning the Olympics, but he was also a fiend in the bedroom. Stories about Nero's bedroom life show up in every history book related to the ancient Roman Empire. It is so because he surpassed every Roman emperor in their weird shenanigans by long miles, and that is saying something. Tacitus told a story about Nero throwing a massive ceremony that went on for days. The most notorious banquet took place in 64 AD during the festival of god Saturn, Saturnalia, and it was hosted by Tigonelius. It took place on a raft constructed by Marcus Agrippa's lake that was towed above other vessels. The vessel was decorated with gold and ivory fittings, stocked with high-ranking ladies. Tacitus even addressed the staff working at this coital event as degenerates. In the end, Nero threw a mock wedding ceremony in which he married a freedman named Pythagoras. Pythagoras was, in fact, one of 2 men Nero married apart from his 3 wives. His other husband was a eunuch who Nero married for the sole reason that he bore a striking resemblance to his former spouse, Poppaea Sabina. Nero even dressed and assumed the role of the bride at the wedding. Tigonelius, the host, also performed the marriage ceremony with all customary rituals, including a bridal veil, wedding dowry, and candles. In Christian mythology, there is a prophecy about a charismatic leader who would sway the masses by pretending to be the paladin of morality and virtue to attain power over the world order. But then they would show their true colors, as they would use the power to rule with an iron fist and do unspeakable things to humanity before the final judgment is delivered. According to some historians, the inspiration behind this myth may have been Nero. It is well known that Nero had no love for Christians, and he is also the Caesar who was responsible for the demise of the Apostle Peter, one of Jesus' well-known disciples. In the Bible, the number 666 is referred to as the number of the beast, but not a lot of people know the full context behind it. Historians have argued that number is more of a code rather than a prophecy. The verse goes like this: "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Coincidentally, in Hebrew letters, the number that represents Nero Caesar is 666. The book of Revelations has also mentioned that the rule of the beast would be precisely 42 months long, and that coincides with the duration of Nero's reign of the Roman Empire after the Great Fire of Rome. Like the prophecy, Nero too began as Mr. Popular. He was quite well liked among the patrons of arts who were graced with his benevolence. He was also quite popular among the commoners early on for lowering the taxes, giving rights to the servants, and eliminating capital punishment. He also rebuilt residential districts with buildings made of bricks and colonnades to shelter residents from the sun. But he was also the emperor who torched the capital to make room for his Domus Aurea. and his taxation policy depleted imperial coffers. Over time, his policies and insanities both saw his popularity fade, and the increasing influence of Christianity didn't help either.
Here we are in Home Alone Part 1. As the pizza delivery driver drives up, the name of the delivery company is revealed on the side of the car. Which is Little Nero Delivers. Little Nero, like Nero Kaiser.